Ku'ulei Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. Let's wake up in the den. Right across of Mr. Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani. Happy Aloha Monday. We are so happy to have you join us today on I was about to say on a rainy day, but as I look outside, it's nice and blue out there, but it was raining.
Nice and rainy for
it was raining just
3
a little
minutes.
bit on your drive here.
So the funny thing is, Ku, I had it ready today. I had my rain jacket ready at the foot of, at my feet, right? And I'm sitting there. And I saw the clouds as I was getting ready to drive out. So I didn't even put it in like the moped bed. I literally put it at my feet thinking at the next red light, as soon as it starts to rain, I'll put it on. So it starts to rain. And then I hit every single green light, which I would never complain about otherwise.
That is why Paul looks so dry today. So hope you guys are staying dry outside. Again, it is Monday, so we are broadcasting live from YouTube right now. So shout out and hello to everybody watching on our YouTube channel at Hawaii Sports Radio. And thank you for everyone that's liked and subscribed so far. We've got a lot of stuff going on our channel, and we'll continue to bring you more. Probably the most exciting thing coming up today, we do have a packed first hour because we're going to try to almost condense everything into what we would usually spread out for 2 hours. So we'll get to a little bit of NFL, some college football, obviously no UH football that happened over the weekend, but those guys are in action this Saturday as they go on their road trip to San Diego State. But we'll get into more college football and some of the fun and intriguing scores that happened in case you missed it. Get into some Rainbow Wahine Volleyball as they opened up the season or the Big West Conference slate with a surprising and somewhat disappointing loss on Friday, but was able to bounce back and get their first sweep of the season on Saturday. So we'll let you hear from assistant coach Nick Costello as well. But since we have to jam all of that stuff into the first hour, it is because coming up in hour number 2, by popular demand, and I know it's been like forever and we've been talking about this, we're coming up on like a year almost since we had women's basketball head coach Laura Beeman in studio. And finally, after like me bugging him like 50 bajillion times, and it's like, and don't get me wrong, he's just busy, and we know Dom Drury isn't here for me to kind of bug Dom, and Dom kind of keeps him on the schedule, so I get it. But by popular demand, we were so excited because coming up in hour number 2, joining us in studio is University of Hawaii men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot. So, woo! We know everyone's kind of been wondering when he was going to come on, just like we have, but it wasn't because he didn't want to. We tried to bug him in the summer.
We don't know that.
Yeah, we tried to bug him in the summer like we do all of the coaches because we know once the season actually starts, we get it. They're very, very busy, and I hope they keep themselves busy, obviously being on the road and recruiting and whatnot. But he said he would come on right as practice is getting started. They just tipped off practice last week, Friday. So it's going to be nice. So we're going to do our usual in-studio guest thing with him, try to get to know, kind of almost do a reset and get to know a little bit more about Coach EG and all of that stuff, coming over, being raised on the East Coast. And coming all the way over here to Hawaii, being an assistant coach, going to St. Mary's, coming back, all of that stuff. So everything you guys need to know. And then, yes, of course, I see we already have text messages coming in. We will dive into maybe the back half of that 9 a.m. hour. We'll get into the actual basketball program of this year. So all of that stuff about recruiting and what is the line. Obviously, they can't really say what the lineup looks like because practice just started. And a lot of their new players just kind of got in towards the back half of the summer. So he'll try to tell us as much as he can, but I don't think we will get too much in terms of rotation yet because there's so many new players, and not just new to the team. There's also some young players like Aaron Hunkin-Clater we always talk about.
I believe 9 new faces if you include AJ Economo because he didn't play last year. I believe there are 9 new faces who have a chance to I guess 8 because of Roy's injury, but faces that have a chance to actually compete for minutes. Like the rotation really is wide open when you return one starter, maybe? No starters?
Maybe. Yeah. That's why.
Tom Beatty?
So I would say for all of our basketball fans who are curious about the rotation, because I think one of our text that came in was talking about the like starting point guard or something like that, which we'll
That's
ask
a good
it.
question.
We will ask it, but I just want to kind of set everybody up for not getting straight answers yet about the actual who's starting, what's the rotation, because similar to Coach Laura Beeman, who did her media scrum last week Thursday too, they have more of the senior teams coming in, but they also have a ton of new players with a lot of talent. So even their rotation still needs to be figured out because the young bloods, they want to play. And then, of course, the senior leaders on the team, they want to still play too, and they have all of that experience. So it's two totally different teams that we're looking at this season. But nonetheless, we're so excited. So be sure you guys stick around for hour number 2. Or if you miss it, you'll be able to listen on demand or at wherever you get your podcasts, or of course on our YouTube channel as well. Okay, moving on though, we'll come back to basketball because Paul has been trying to delay this discussion because for good reason. When I texted him about what we're talking about, or the rundown for this first hour, he's like, NFL's stupid anyway.
Yeah, who cares about it? That's sport. There's so much other stuff going on we could care about too.
It's okay. We'll only dabble in the NFL a little bit. Why? Because I need to talk about it because coming off of last week.
Yeah, what a game.
Coming off of last week, I was the only person whose team did not win last weekend. And by comparison, I'm talking about Paul's Jets and Michael's LA Rams. And we were like, all right, out of the three of us, some team is going to win this weekend, of course, for sure, because the Chicago Bears and the LA Rams played against each other. Gosh.
What would the vibe be today?
I totally hate ties in the NFL. It's like irritating, but that would have been, it is possible in regular season, and that would have been so hilarious.
And worse for me, because then I would have been the only loss.
You were the only one with 0 points.
Oh, God. Anyway.
We get a point each for the tie. But yes, the Chicago Bears coming out on top 24-18 over the LA Rams. Don't worry, you guys. I won't bore you too much about it. I just want to tell you guys, the Bears, by the way, were favored by 3, and they easily covered. I was not expecting. I did take them in our quick picks. I think it might have been the only game that I won against Kyle in our quick picks, but it's okay. My fantasy team, they did all right, and then my quick picks against Kyle Galdera probably didn't do that great. But the main thing that really matters is that my real team, the Chicago Bears, were able to win. But if you guys missed it, and this reminds me of, I got to ask special teams coordinator from UH, Thomas Sheffield, about this, because if you guys watch that game, Torrey Taylor is him, the punter for the Chicago Bears. He is the MVP and likely the reason why the Chicago Bears even won. He had multiple 60-plus yard punts to flip the field entirely and pin the Rams against their own end zone. And then not only that, but there was one of his shorter punts of the game. It just landed perfectly, bounced in the field and then bounced out of bounds, I believe, somewhere around the 10, 15-yard line. And it was just, he is incredible. And they actually talked about him a little bit in Hard Knocks, and Bears GM Ryan Poles said a lot of good things. He's like, yeah, I hope he works out because we're using a draft pick on a punter. So again, drafted in I believe it was the 4th round with 100 and something. It was a high
pick for a punter.
He's from Australia by way of Iowa Hawkeyes, and so far he's proving that he is worth every bit of that pick for the Chicago Bears, because honestly, if they didn't have a punter of that quality,
it changes things.
I don't think that the Bears could have came out with this win. It would have been a very, very different type of game. And fortunately, I know all of our LA Rams fans like Michael. Well, Michael, to his credit, didn't complain in our text thread, but
I'm sure he complained elsewhere.
Yeah, because that last play, I do think it could have been called almost like a roughing the passer on Matthew Stafford, because he hit his helmet or upper body area. But you know what? Quarterbacks always get the call, so I'm going to take it. No call, interception, Chicago Bears win the game. And that's what I have to say about that. All right, I'm going to move on so that I don't bore everybody. I want to move on to this Bills-Ravens game, because just when you think, especially for me, just when I was about to eat my words about, man, maybe the Bills, kind of figured it out a little bit, and maybe they're going to be a legit contender this year, and they still might be. And then you have the Baltimore Ravens that started 0-2, albeit the first game was against the Kansas City Chiefs, but then they come back and they lose to the Raiders, right? And you're like, man, what is up with this Baltimore Ravens team?
They
And then
almost blew it against the Cowboys.
And then they blow it, or not blow it, they blow away the Buffalo Bills at 35-10 yesterday. And you're like, oh, okay. Favored by only 2.5, by the way. And it was crazy. Like, I mean, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry is
Guy's pretty
like,
good still, huh?
He has his resurgence. I don't even know. He's
He
back.
had an 87-yard touchdown moments into the game. Not moments, I guess 4 minutes.
Yeah,
but.
that did 199 yards on 24 carries and a touchdown on the ground. Also a touchdown reception. Saved me, though. Thank you, Derrick Henry. And there was that fumble into the end zone that saved my fantasy chances, because if Derrick Henry had gotten another touchdown in fantasy, I was playing against both Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. So should that touchdown have gone to Derrick Henry, which it did on the first play but didn't get in, my fantasy weekend would have been done. Now the person I'm playing, I think, is only up by 2 points, and I still have Calvin Ridley on today. So as long as just throw him the ball a couple of times, please.
I also have Calvin Ridley, so I'm on board with that. Fantasy football is also stupid, by the way. My wife is destroying me this week in my my college friends league that she got an invite to, and just an absolute smackdown there this week. So. Fantasy football is stupid, so is the NFL, but I took great enjoyment out of this game. The Ravens, I mean, this is more what we expected out of them, right? The running team, really good defense, and all teams are expected to kind of have an off night, and that's kind of what the Bills did right here. You can't have an off night against the Baltimore Ravens, or you see exactly what happened, and that is a multi-score victory for Baltimore. So a really big win for Baltimore. First loss of the season for Buffalo. It also does put back into perspective for me, somebody who was absolutely spiraling after the Jets lost to the Broncos yesterday. And for anybody else whose team might be in a spot that they are not necessarily pleased with right now, look around the entire NFL. Everybody has a loss except for like the Chiefs and the Vikings, right? I think those are the two teams who are still unbeaten through 4 weeks. Otherwise, everyone else got a loss. Everyone else has got a weird record, 2-2, 3-1.
And that's the thing,
everybody's right there.
Against weird teams, like we mentioned with the Baltimore Ravens, as you said, almost losing to the Cowboys, didn't, but then they lose to the Raiders after like putting up a fight against the Kansas City Chiefs, and you're like, wow, what is this team? And there was all this talk about, teams making the playoffs, starting 0-2 and yada, yada, yada. And then they do that against the Buffalo Bills, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And you mentioned the Vikings, another undefeated team.
Sam Darnold, baby.
I know.
That's my boy. That's my boy.
Shout out to Scott Robbs, who is like one of the only Minnesota Vikings fans that I know here in Hawaii. So they beat, and by all accounts, like I said, if the Bears win and the Packers lose, it's been a good weekend. It's been a fantastic weekend. I think I picked the Vikings in our quick picks, but I believe the spread was like 2.5 though, huh? Yeah, so shucks.
The spread was 2.5, but I think I have it down as favoring Green Bay.
Oh.
Because it was at Green Bay, to be fair.
It was at Lambeau.
Yeah, I have minus 2.5 for Green Bay, and you did, in fact, take Minnesota.
Woo-hoo!
So take that as you will.
Maybe I only got a couple of games there in our quick
I'll go back and check and make sure, but
we'll allow it.
I think you might have done a little bit better than you thought.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we will get to a couple more NFL games, including another kind of a shocker and with the Commanders and Cardinals. Like, what is going on with making me jealous here with their quarterback and Jaden Daniels for the Commanders? Also, some really fun games that happened in college football, including some in the Mountain West and some teams that were off. But we'll be back. Don't go anywhere. This is Wake Up in the Den on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake up in the den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
DJ Pauly B there mixing it up
clearly.
somehow. I don't know what's going on over there.
What do you mean? That was my new mix. Check it out.
Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht. Don't forget, don't go anywhere. Coming up in the second hour, UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot will join us for the entire hour, and we are streaming live on YouTube and obviously on the radio and HawaiiSportsRadio.com. So text us. You can feel free to text us your questions for Coach Ganot now if you want, because we will definitely get into it when we come to the second hour. And of course, if you're the first ones to text in, we'll ask your questions first. So that's probably the main thing. Don't wait too long or else we'll run out of time and not be able to get your questions in. Okay, going back to our football, though, happening across the continent. I mentioned before going to break, another thing that breaks my soul is how good rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels looks like, because my Chicago Bears went with Caleb Williams, who I think will work out, because I do think there is an issue there in the offensive room, like just the offensive coordinator. There was a there was a player meeting with their OC, and hopefully things get figured out. So I don't think it's entirely Caleb Williams and all that stuff, but Jaden Daniels, I mean, the Commander is not just beating the Arizona Cardinals, but annihilating the Cardinals. Like, I had to double check that score because I thought it was like flipped and it was the Cardinals who had the 42 points. Nope. And I just had to do it right now. Like, all right, I'm looking at the right score. Commanders beating the Cardinals 42-14. Arizona, not only the home team, but also favored by 3.5 in that game. And Jaden Daniels just 20 for 30 for 233 yards and a touchdown, 47 on the ground, and another touchdown with his legs. So he is, by all accounts, just continuing to do good things. I'm sure Commanders fans are extremely or pleasantly surprised and happy, because you just never know what's going to happen. I do, for his sake, and for those fans of the Commanders, that he stays healthy, because he does do a lot with his legs. Not too much, at least in this game, and was still able to do his quarterback thing. So proving that he is almost similar to like Lamar Jackson, that what we saw against the Bills, where Lamar he got a lot of flack because he runs too much and everyone talks about how he can't pass and yada, yada, yada. He played a beautiful game against the Bills, and Jaden Daniels is kind of looking similar to that style. And I just don't want it to end up like their last hopes of a franchise quarterback, who was RG3 and just did a little too much with his legs and end up getting too injured to continue to play the game of football. But it's been nice to watch if you're just a football fan. But if you're a Bears fan and you see Jaden Daniels doing that and you're just waiting for it to happen with Caleb, again, I'm not saying that in the long run I'm not worried about Caleb yet. But when you see the instant success from a fellow rookie quarterback in the same draft class, also I just have PTSD, because I will say this all the time, and I know I sound like a broken record, but the fact that the Bears drafted Mitch Trubisky in the same class as Patrick Mahomes will not cease to haunt me and break my soul. At least this time, the Bears naturally had the higher pick, and they went with what they did. I said it going to the draft. Hey, it's the lowest risk for potentially the highest reward, so it's good. You got to take the best quarterback as it stands. But it's still going to hurt the soul a little bit as I continue to watch Jaden Daniels do this well on a team that is probably they're talented. They have some receivers, but if you compare them side by side with the Chicago Bears, I would say the Chicago Bears have a bit more talent.
When are the Jets going to be able to get a little bit of luck, guys?
I know.
I mean, I'm looking at like quarterbacks drafted number 2 overall, right? And going back to 1999, Donovan McNabb drafted number 2 overall in 1999. Pretty good career, right?
Yeah.
Even if you go down from there, right, all the way further, you go to Robert Griffin III. Would have taken his career with the Jets, albeit a short one. Would have taken it. 2012. Marcus Mariota, he worked out pretty well. He's still in the league. I don't think you can argue that he's anything more than absolute success. And then from there, Carson Wentz, that guy, I know he busted out after a while, but had MVP flashes. Even Mitch Trubisky, didn't you guys make the playoffs with him as a quarterback?
The defense was good.
But here's the thing. The Jets defense is good, and they still couldn't do it. So they draft Zach Wilson. Second overall, stinks. After that, CJ Stroud looks like an MVP. Jaden Daniels, number 2 overall, looks like an MVP. What do I got to do? Everybody else gets a number 2 overall pick, and they're good. Not me. Not the Jets. No, we lose to the Broncos 10-9 because we can't score touchdowns against Bo Nix.
With Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback.
I hate football. Football sucks.
That's why Paul opened the show with football is stupid. That's where the sentiment
and you know what?
is coming.
I'll be up at 3 a.m. for the Jets game in London this week anyway, like a clown watching.
I'm back. I can't quit you. That's essentially what it is. Speaking of Marcus Mariota, I'm glad you mentioned his name because you know what? We're gonna attribute Marcus Mariota for Jaden Daniels' success. That's because he is on the Commanders. I believe he's still the second string, listed as a second string. So you know what? We're just gonna because we can because this is a Hawaii show and we're gonna be a little biased. So
narrative ball.
Marcus Mariota is the reason why Jaden Daniels is so successful there in Washington. I said it. Mark my words.
Here's my thing. Which quarterback between Caleb and Jaden looks better right now? You'd probably say Jaden, and that's not to say long-term career or anything, but whatever. Which one of them has Marcus as the backup? The proof is in the pudding, guys. It is simply the Mariota effect.
Yep.
It's the impact Hawaii has on a guy. Sorry. There you go.
Again, we're going to go with that because
what a time.
we said so. All right, switching over to the college football landscape. Also just in time because I saw like a text come in when it deals with one of our friend that likes to text us about Las Vegas. He's like, this person's my favorite. But they texted in, I like Bama and Georgia to be in the CFP semifinal. Was it Spin Master Ryan Hollywood Williams, Bama's wide receiver, 17-year-old Heisman, a 200 to 1 odds. Love Vegas. We love you texting in about Las Vegas all the time. It's like the best. It does really bring a big smile to my face because it's just so jolly. This is why we like to talk about sports odds all the time because it's just funny. Or not funny, but it's fun to speculate. And speaking of that game, it was a good and interesting game. And shout out Kalen DeBoer going over from Washington to Alabama to replace the legendary coach that is Nick Saban. And here you go. You got job one complete. We always talk about certain rivalries, right? And a lot of these coaches, as long as you can beat certain teams in that schedule, like we talk about Ohio State, Michigan, Army, Navy, like after a while, it's just as long as you can win that game, other losses could potentially be quote unquote forgivable. So Alabama, the number 4 team in the country at the time, beating number 2 Georgia 41-34, and Alabama got on the board really, really quickly. And I was kind of doing some work and had the game on in the background, and I peep over. I'm like, dang, Alabama just scored again. And again, Georgia, by the way, favored by 2.5. So what the texter said, like I like that too. I mean, they're both obviously solid teams, but definitely a lot of credit to Roll Tide and, like I said, Kalen DeBoer, because that's some big shoes to fill, and making sure the team, not only like we go back and Nick Saban, like he kind of gave his blessing to Kalen DeBoer taking over, so it was able to keep a lot of the players there. So for him to come over and have that type of success is it's huge, and it will keep him in Alabama for as long as he can, because if there's anyone that can get driven out of coaching somewhere, it would be Alabama, because you don't win for a school that is so used to winning, and of course beating a rival in Georgia. It was awesome, and I like to see the upper ranked schools lose.
You're not wrong when it comes to Alabama. The pressure is there. It's almost the New York Yankees-esque type pressure where you have to win every single year, right? And that's the expectation. Whether it's fair or not, you have to win every single year. Undefeated seasons are the expectation. National championships being won is the expectation. You have, Da Bear, Da Goat, and Da Boer, right? That was a great call from Pat McAfee there. It was the game of the year. And it's funny because at the start of it, I said to my wife, I was like, I think this is going to be the game of the year. Alabama races out to a 28-0 lead, and I'm like, oh, this is a boat race. So much for game of the year. We went out to go get like a couple of drinks and dinner, and like the game's still on and whatever. All of a sudden, you see Georgia's starting to come back.
Yeah.
And we had Georgia fans in the place with us. Like, it's filled with Georgia fans, so they're screaming every time. It did end up being the game of the year, and the talent on display, that felt like a national semifinal, right? Where you look at that and you understand how both of those teams could currently be ranked in the top 4, because Georgia, I mean, how many teams do we see just kind of lay down and die after they go down 28-0? All of them, pretty much. And they don't come back, take the lead, and if not for, like our texter said, Mr. Spin Master himself, the 17-year-old Ryan Williams, then all of a sudden Georgia comes back with one of the biggest upsets or comebacks over their rival, and what's that coming? All that. Like, it was the game of the year, the regular season at least.
Yeah.
And that's dope.
I love seeing that it is like a true young talent, because a lot of talent that we see now, I always think about San Jose State receiver Nick Nash. I mean, he's like 25 years old, so you're like, you better be good at that age. But it's nice to see like this true young talent be able to come out and be that productive. And also, but if there's anyone that has to say anything about the Heisman race, it would definitely be Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty, who Hawaii will see in just less than a couple of weeks. But Boise State coming out on top over Washington State, what is it going on? Washington State, 45-24. Boise State, for their part, only favored by 6.5. But Ashton Jeanty, 259 yards on 26 carries and 4 touchdowns. Like, what type of a stat line is that? Like, that is insane.
I had to know what it is. It's a Heisman-worthy stat line.
So that's why I said if there's anyone that will kind of settle everybody else down of like, hold on, I still need to be in the running and talks for the Heisman Trophy this year, it would be Ashton Jeanty. And as much as it pains me, because we talk about Boise State and we're like, Boise. But you know what? I love the game of football, and I appreciate like people that are just that step above and so talented. And Ashton Jeanty is that guy. Again, 259 yards and 4 touchdowns against Washington State.
I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, this guy is Heisman worthy. I think this is the year we finally get a guy who wins the Heisman who's not a quarterback again, right? I know that's the conversation with the NFL's MVP award, and it has kind of just become the best quarterback in the league or the best quarterback that year award, and I would like to see that go the other way. I also think there's no argument other than Ashton Jeanty versus Travis Hunter right now. If you look at those two players, they should be far and away the favorites for the Heisman. I mean, Jeanty's put up a season's worth of stats in 4 games, and he didn't even stat pad against an FCS school in Portland State. He played 1 half against them. Then you look at Travis Hunter and what he's doing on both sides of the ball. You need it to not be a quarterback this year, and it would be kind of cool, just by the way, for it to be a Mountain West guy, because Boise State, for now, is still in the Mountain West.
Yeah, for now. But you know what? They can leave. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yeah, ask Fresno State how they feel about leaving.
Anywho, we'll continue some more college football talk, but just real quick before we go to break, if you are curious on this Heisman Trophy race right now, looking at the odds, Jalen Milroe has the shortest odds at +200, followed by Cam Ward at +500, and then you have Travis Hunter at 7-1, and then Ashton Jeanty at 10-1, and then our guy Dylan Gabriel is right there at 14-1. I got to double check my ticket because I'm not sure what my odds are for Dylan Gabriel. I know he's fallen off since I got it, so those pains me. I'm like, dang it. Now it's kind of, I mean, Oregon is still, Oregon's still doing well, but obviously there's been players that have stood out a lot more. Nico Iamaleava is actually right behind Dylan at 16-1. So this will be interesting down the stretch, and the season is technically still just getting started, so it'll be fun to see how things play out as the season continues to go along. All right, got to take our break. We'll be back in a couple of months. I hope not. We'll be back in a couple of minutes here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Stuck Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautiful list of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside Paul Brecht. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani. Mahalo for tuning in this and every weekday morning on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network from 8 to 10. Except Thursdays, because Thursdays we go into Sharks Weekly after the first hour. And today, in the second hour, we have a very special show as we will welcome UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot to join us for the second hour. So we're going to do our reset as we do with all of our in-studio guests that join us in studio and get to know them a little bit more. And then also get into a lot of basketball talk, especially because there are a ton of new players, as Paul mentioned earlier in the show, 9 players to be exact that are new to this UH men's basketball roster. So if you guys have any questions for Coach EG, you can feel free to text us already at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. Even if you guys got to bow out and you want to put in a question, and then you can listen to his answer on demand. So go ahead and text us now, and then he'll be coming up. All right, I want to switch from national football and get back here locally, as there were a couple of significant games that happened over the weekend as we pull up our Scoring Live scoreboard for you, for all of you that are watching on YouTube. Probably some of the main ones that stood out in terms, we'll get to the big win for Mililani over Kahuku, a 14-10 on Saturday night. That was probably one of the biggest things that will shake up the Scoring Live power rankings that will be released later this afternoon. Another big game. I know I got to give a shout out because one of their assistant coaches has been not in a bad way. He's just been kind of jousting at me every time the power rankings come out. In that Pac-5, the Wolfpack have not made their way into the power rankings. Well, here you go, Coach Derek Branch, former UH receiver as well. Pac-5.
Spoiler.
Yeah, Pac-5 beating Iolani on Friday, 26-14. As we know, Iolani has been in the power rankings since kind of the beginning. So we will see, our powers that be that I checked with, we will see for sure Pac-5 will crack the power rankings for the first time this season. But you will have to follow us on social media at High Sports Radio to see where exactly they will end up, because that we don't know yet. So again, power rankings to be released later on this afternoon. But yeah, Pac-5 coming out on top over Iolani, and now Derek Branch can see his Wolfpack in there.
I'm really curious to see how the rankings are shaken up, because like you mentioned, there was a lot of movement this past weekend. Really excited for Pac-5, as you kind of mentioned it. This is a monumental moment for them, right? Where it's their first win over Iolani, at least their first win at Iolani ever, and there were plenty of steps Pac-5 took this past weekend, and that's really cool to be part of that group of young men who were finally kind of able to get over that hump. It's going to be nice to see them in the top 15. I'm curious to see how high they rise. Do they just sneak in at 15? Do they go a little bit higher? Because this wasn't just like they snuck out a last-second win over Iolani. They end up winning by 12, a really strong performance by Seth Miller. Overall, just a really good day for the Wolfpack. Do we see them maybe get 14, 13, especially considering all of the movement this weekend and all of the games this weekend? Because there were a bunch of ranked teams that went down in ways that were uncharacteristic for them.
Yeah, and if you want to see all of the scores, you can go to scoringlive.com. Waipahu, though, not enough. Kapolei just too strong for Waipahu. The Hurricane just blew through Waipahu.
Tom was pretty good, man.
68-8. Yes, 68-8, Kapolei over Waipahu. All right, I want to get into that big win that will also shake up the power rankings, as we will likely see Mililani jump above Kahuku this afternoon when the power rankings are released, because Mililani beat Kahuku 14-10 on Saturday in what came down to a defensive game, as you can tell by the score. But for Mililani, we know their offense has always been strong, and their defense is finally starting to kind of build themselves up to be just as strong as their offense. And we know Kahuku is also known for their defense, so that's why normally these teams score a lot of points, but it became a defensive battle. And then unfortunately for Kahuku, another time it's like we've seen this game before and we didn't like the ending, and that's the Red Raiders fans, because at the end, instead of spiking the ball, their quarterback, Sanford Tupuola, he took a knee with about 12 seconds left on the clock, and the clock was running. So instead of spiking the ball to stop the clock and set yourself up for a play, he took a knee instead, and then then they snapped it. Final play went, and of course he gets sacked because nobody really was set. So it was unfortunate. Another thing where we talk about situational football and how important it is. So it was just unfortunate for Kahuku for it to end that way. So it was very reminiscent to the St. Louis game that St. Louis had lost to Mililani also. So Mililani, to their credit, hey, they've been able to play sound complementary football and not make these types of mistakes in these close games. But maybe it's something about the field there at Mililani that gets teams to mess up, because it happened against St. Louis when it came down to the wire where they had a chance to potentially win the game. In the end, it came down to also Kahuku still would need a touchdown to win, but nonetheless, they had an opportunity because they had the ball with seconds left and just kind of messed up at the end. And it was kind of a pain to see. But talking about Mililani again, huge win. Want to get to one of our interviews that Michael Lescaro was on hand to catch up with one of Mililani's linebackers, Isaiah Iosefa.
Congratulations on this win. I know you were on this team, or you were on this team for a bit last year, but you came back. But this was the rivalry last year.
Yeah.
So to get this win, what is it feeling like right now?
Our coaches just put it into our minds that, this is the game that people want, and this is the game that we want. Mililani, we kind of came up short last season in the state championship, and, just playing with a chip on our shoulders and just firing off on all cylinders, and just playing with that fire and, just trying to prove something. A lot of banged up guys and us just coming out on top. So, yeah.
Talk about that interception that led to the first touchdown for you guys.
Like I said, the coaches did a great job putting me in a great place, great position. I just executed the stuff that we've seen this whole week. We just practiced, and all glory to God, just putting me and blessing me in that position. And, my teammates doing their jobs, and I just got to do my job. So it was easy.
You talk about everybody doing their job, right? Offense without Kinney, without Salano. A lot of guys even banged out. I think even Nicole got hurt at the start of the season. But they're doing their thing as well. So talk about them kind of stepping up and those players on the offense kind of helping to do their part.
Yeah, I know. Practices have been great, man. Like our mindset is kind of next man up. One gets injured and the next man is up, and we did a good job filling in those shoes and just holding it down for the offense. So I'm really proud of the boys on the other side of the ball for sure.
Talk about that 4th down and 3rd down stop here in the red zone against Google. They are basically on the doorstep, but you guys shut them down. Talk about that. And I thought Chevy was really big there too.
For sure. Yeah, Chevy Robinson, he's a big key to our D-line, and man, he's like Coach Vi said, he's really a lunch pill, and coaches just did a great job, great play calls, and we just executed, and pressure.
You talk about Coach Vi, right? He used to coach at Google, won a state title there.
Yeah.
Was there a little bit more extra in this week's preparation from him?
I wouldn't say extra, but I would say it's just something that we have done all season, especially even off season, and something that we prepared for. Nothing really changed. It's just, it's a big game. It's an important game because you're challenging one of the best teams, if not the best team in the state. So, yeah, it was just kind of, basic preparation. Yeah.
And that was Mililani linebacker Isaiah Iosefa. Sorry, we got distracted, like talking about something else. That's what happened.
Planning.
Yeah, we were
the
planning
show on the show.
But no, Mililani again. By credit to whatever powers are on their football field at Mililani High School at John Kawianana Stadium, it's crazy because we talked about it before. St. Louis kind of had a a little mismanagement in the quarterback position when they played at Mililani with the chance to win and kind of messed up at the end. And the same thing happened with Kahuku. So whatever is going on there at Mililani, it's kept them undefeated here when they're, or at least entering some of the local schools that they play. So shout out Mililani coming out over Kahuku, but we'll see. But now more than ever, just like when we talk about the NFL, it feels like high school football in the open division is anyone's game because
any given night.
Yeah, because Mililani, those wins were close over St. Louis and Kahuku. So anything can happen when the playoffs come around, maybe when the state championship comes around and they see St. Louis again. And of course, Campbell will by all accounts remain at the top. They did have a big win at Kea'au 50-14 over the weekend. So I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that Campbell will remain as the number one team in the state so far, but we should see quite the shakeup through a lot of the other parts of the power ranking. So that will come out later today. All right, going to step aside. When we come back, we will get you caught up with what you may have missed with women's volleyball over the weekend and let you hear from one of their assistant coaches, Nick Castello, and what he had to say post-game following that their sweep and comeback to bounce back from Friday night's 5-set loss and be able to sweep Cal State Fullerton on Saturday night. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Stuck in Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Never stop dreaming, everybody. Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht. Mahalo for tuning in. Don't forget, in about 10 minutes or so, when we go to our second hour, we will have University of Hawaii men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot joining us for the second hour. So we are going to talk about a lot of stuff, and it kind of worked out perfectly because as I am seeing that they have officially announced that Zorned just texting me that they just announced that they have given Cody Williams a scholarship. So there you go. Breaking news here, and something I guess we can ask Eran Ganot about. So it'll be fun. So stick around. Remember, you can text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481 if you guys have any questions for Coach EG. And I was going to say, I don't see it on Twitter, but he texted me. They're literally loading it on their social media right now. So
all right.
it's coming up. It's coming
You heard
up.
it here first then.
You heard it here first via Zorned. So thank you again. But before we get into basketball, because we're going to use the second hour entirely for that, I want to talk about the Rainbow Wahine Volleyball team opening up Big West Conference play, and it was a difficult one. They opened up with UC Irvine on Friday, and by all accounts, it looked like, wow, Hawaii's going to get their first sweep of the season here in a little bit. They were able to beat UC Irvine in the first couple of sets at 25-21, at 25-22. And then it starts to get a little rocky in that third set. UC Irvine coming back and reverse sweeping Hawaii 26-24, 25-18, and 15-13. So, Hawaii just kind of got stuck in a bad rotation a little bit. We saw Kaylin Alexander not come back into the game in that fifth set, and she kind of made her way out about midway. So they were without her services for about a set and a half, I would say, on Friday night. So she's been kind of like their star outside hitter. But we mentioned when the season first started and, Kate Lang was starting to utilize a lot of the middle blockers. That was for good reason, because you didn't want to put a lot of strain on Kaylin Alexander in the beginning of the season and spreading out the offense a little bit more. But Kaylin not in action for, again, the final set and a half against UC Irvine, and then not in action also for that game against Cal State Fullerton. Yet Hawaii was able to bounce back Friday and get that win, the sweep over Cal State Fullerton, 25-17, 25-13, and 25-15. But without Kaylin Alexander, once again, a lot of players got worked into the rotation. So once again, they're still young, got stuck in a bad rotation a little bit, and UC Irvine, to their credit, they are more a veteran team. So they kind of, and I don't want to say anything about it necessarily being out coached, because that's the funky thing about volleyball, right? It's all about rotation. And if you get stuck almost in like kind of the perfect storm scenario where they have their best rotation and then you have kind of your worst, it can ultimately happen and see what we saw on Friday night. And to, Hawaii's detriment, they also, in some occasions, beat themselves. We talk about playing clean volleyball. Well, clean sports all around will sometimes decide whether you win or lose. And I'm not worried about this loss per se. It did look bad because Hawaii did look so good to start off that game against UC Irvine. But I think the fact that they were able to come back and sweep Cal State Fullerton without Kaylin Alexander said a lot about this team and how far they're going to go.
Yeah, they're a real quality unit from top to bottom, right? We've talked about the depth of this team, the youth of this team, sure, but the depth of this team where you're able to toss in two freshmen to the starting lineup, make their first starts, and come up with your first sweep of the year. Now, obviously, Hawaii more talented than Cal State Fullerton, just a fact of the matter, and is not meant as any disrespect to the Titans. It's just how it was. And they played really, really well. It seemed like they were in a rhythm all night. And when things kind of work out your way, you can get that. It goes back to you mentioning the perfect storm. It also gives you a little bit of confidence as well. We've talked a little bit about how there's no real idea on the timeline for Kaylin Alexander, really even what's going on. It's been an undisclosed reason that she missed the end of the UC Irvine series and the entire Cal State Fullerton one. We'll see at the end maybe of this week she'll be back, and perhaps it was just a lingering injury. Who knows? But it's good for these young women to understand that they can do it, right? And that's something that against UC Irvine all of a sudden came into doubt for them. So I was glad that they were able to respond so quickly, looking towards it and being like, okay, last night, that stunk, but we cannot dwell on it. You have to bounce back. And that's what they did. That was impressive for a young team and something that they're going to have to continue to do throughout this entire conference season as they continue learning who they are.
Yeah, and letting us know exactly what was going on in the locker room and how the team was able to bounce back during the post-game. Nick Costello, he kind of shared his thoughts, and he was also able to share a little bit of like not having Kaylin Alexander and what her status will be. So here is what UH Women's Volleyball assistant coach Nick Costello had to say following their match and the sweep over Cal State Fullerton.
it always sucks to lose, but when you know that you beat yourself versus the other team just coming in and outplaying you, it's a little bit more frustrating. And then we get to play 24 hours later. So, and it's another important conference match. So, kudos to them for bouncing back. But they knew that, last night was unfortunate, but it was a quick turnaround. So they're able to kind of just, compartmentalize that and just put the blinders on in this Fullerton team and take care of business, get our first sweep of the season. We like that. But yeah, it kind of reminded me of last year. We went to Long Beach, and we lose to Long Beach, and then we went San Diego the next night. But it was the same thing, where Long Beach came in and they were just ready to go, and they just wanted a little bit more. And then we had a quick turnaround. We had to play against San Diego. But the cool thing with that one was, we lost in the building that Big West Championships was in. Now, we didn't lose in the building that Big West Championships is going to be this year, but we lost to a team where they're going to be hosting that championship, and we get to see them that last game in conference right before. So, it's kind of these similarities of last year and this year, where now it's a little bit more circled, that Irvine match when we play at the end of the conference, and then of course see what happens. We can get in the tournament, but we're going to be in that venue again. So, the venue will be nice at the end of the year.
Kaylin obviously played a big role in this team. Just what it was just to go without her time and just what that effectively did for them.
We love having Kaylin out there, but at the end of the day, sometimes we're not going to be at our best, and that's where it leaves opportunities for others to step up. And others stepped up tonight. You look at our middles. Even Maddie, who didn't start, and she comes in and she does her job over there. Millie was hitting 1,000, I think, leading into the third set. And then that first attempt, she gets dug. But it's cool to see when you take your horse out of the game. Okay, what are you guys gonna do? And you see people step up, and some that never were in that position before, stepping up. And we have a young team, so just a lot of firsts for a lot of them. So it's just really cool to see them, just handle it and stay together and stay the course, get the job done.
Nick, what can you say about Kaylin's availability? What her status and just was she available to play today?
Yeah, at the end of the day, their health comes first and foremost, and she's dealing with some wear and tear stuff that just at the end of the day, after warm up, it wasn't a go. So we're not going to be that staff that forces her to go. Like I said, we have other options, and it kind of forces us to think outside the box and be a little more creative. And with Kaylin, it was just, okay, this is our lineup, and you see the volume of what she's getting. Our identity was just Kaylin. And I think against Baylor, when Kaylin kind of gets a little tweaked as well, you kind of see the air get sucked out of the room. Everyone's like, what do we do without Kaylin? But tonight, Kaylin, you see other people step up. So it's pretty cool to see. It's a long season, and with the number that we have, you want to stay healthy, but at the end of the day, that's out of your control. So when things happen like that, it's really awesome to see these young women step up and fill the role and get the job done.
And that was UH Women's Volleyball assistant coach Nick Castello, and what he had to say following their sweep over Cal State Fullerton on Saturday night. All right, got to step aside. When we come back, we will welcome UH Men's Basketball head coach Eran Ganot, as he will join us entirely for the second hour. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Gather around, ladies, and join us Sunday.
Tie.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and our special in-studio guest joining us for the entire second hour. I feel like it's been like a year and a half in the making, but finally have him here. University of Hawaii men's basketball head coach, Eran Ganot. Woo! Say hi to all the people watching on YouTube,
Hello,
EG.
everybody. Thank you for having me. It is an honor. I know it's been a while to get to this point. I know we had to adjust around Paul's schedule, so here we are.
We did. I want to make sure we give Coach some credit because we were efforting in the summer, but the kind of the week where he was like, oh, I can come to the studio this week, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Paul would be sad because he's kind of doing his big
was
boy
I in
things.
Alaska or in New York at the time? Because I
don't
was
know.
all over the world at that point.
Yeah, one of those. But fortunately, we were able to get you in here. And I know it's starting to get busy because practices have just gotten started. And again, want to give a shout out and congratulations to Cody Williams, who it was just announced that he has been put on scholarship. So we'll definitely ask you about him and some of the other new players throughout the show. But as we always do with our in-studio guests, as we've had a lot of coaches to come through here. But we want to start from the beginning and take a trip down memory lane just a little bit. So obviously we do know stuff about you, but I always want the fans to hear it directly from you. So we'll start very easy. Just tell everybody a little bit about where you're originally from.
So, born in Philly, grew up in New Jersey, obviously went to Swarthmore College, about 20 minutes outside of Pennsylvania. Family of 4, great family, great parents. Obviously, as you guys know, I'm a twin brother. I have a twin, Asaf, and older sister Betty, younger sister Danielle. We're kind of scattered. We've always been East Coast, and then, it's crazy because 21 years growing up in the East, and basically this is my 22nd year coaching all in the West.
And I have to ask, did you and your twin brother ever have fun switching places at all?
All twins get asked that question all the time, and some people do. We never did. So there's that question out of the way.
And so you guys both have, in case people don't know, they have 2 entirely separate careers. His twin brother is actually in fashion design. It's pretty awesome. So being that like you took 2 different career paths, what was it about? When did you kind of get into the sport of basketball? What made you play it? Did you play other sports growing up? And was your brother someone that was into sports, or was he always completely into that type of industry?
No, we loved sports early, and our parents did a good job throwing us into everything. And you hear me talk to parents and families about, when you're young, you should play everything. And then kind of when you get to high school, college, whatever, you can start to specialize. But all the sports at a young age attack different things, and so I think it's good when you play every sport. And obviously when you have siblings, it gets competitive. You can imagine how competitive it can get when you have a twin brother. Mm-hmm. And so it's constantly, and our parents basically like, hey, if we want to do any sports, we had to get good grades, get to class, all those kind of things. So we got really good. And I don't know if it was exact correlation, but really good in the classroom because we wanted to play sports. And so in the mornings, I remember going to school early to get some sports in. And then right after school ended, right back to sports. And so both of us played through college. He played at Franklin Marshall, a really good Division III school in Pennsylvania as well. And then I went into coaching. He went into kind of the fashion world. That's what my dad was in clothing manufacturing, and my brother learned a little bit about that, but wanted to be more in the design side. But I always say this about everybody, like we're all so fortunate if we can find a passion. Sometimes it takes longer to do that, but once you find it, go get it. And that was his, and this is mine.
I must say, though, because I remember the last time he was here and he was, obviously staying with you, and we see him walking with Zisa with a hat on, and it's like spitting image. Like they are, by all accounts, like identical twins. So it's a little trippy at first, especially like I said, he has his hat on because you guys do have a little bit of a different hairline. So when he has his hat on is like the only time I'm like, they look exactly the same.
There are times I think that, most people around us, because there's some twins that are, Javon was more, and his brother was a little bit more, tougher. I could tell by the voice and maybe just being around them all the time. But no, it's interesting when he's in town, and it'll be great to have him back. He's a great uncle too.
Yeah. Okay. So what was it about? You said you played multiple sports. what was it about basketball that you really loved and fell in love with and wanted to pursue it in the long run?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And the good thing about growing up on the East for the sports is you had the different seasons. So, you play football in the winter and with the snow out there. And sometimes we play tackle basketball out there on the snow. And but baseball, it was always soccer in the fall and baseball in the spring and everything in the summer. But, then it got down to baseball and basketball. As you know, I'm a big Don Mattingly fan growing up and as a East Coast guy. And I wanted to be Don Mattingly, so I think I would wear the eye black and maybe try to draw a mustache and played first base and try to bat left even though I was a righty. And, I was just trying hard to be like him. And although I took a lot of his qualities in terms of, because he was the captain, the Yankees leader. But what was the question again?
No, just what was it? I know I asked what his passion was about basketball, and then he went entirely on baseball, which I love it. So you're sharing about baseball, but yeah, what was it about basketball that you felt really gravitated to?
I think is fortunate because at the end, when I'm 9, 10, you're seeing the end of Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, the start of Michael Jordan. Here comes Shaq. I remember when Shaq came to town, it was a big thing. I was actually at the game when he took the basket down against New Jersey, and I think I was 11. Yeah, we had signs all over our community that said the Shaq attack is in town, and and then we both started to gravitate towards it, and then we found any opportunity we could to play it, and watching it. We started to go. To be honest, we used to go to Nets games. It was in the Meadowlands area. I think it was Brendan Byrne Arena, then Continental Airlines Arena, and I'm telling you, there was like no security, so. You could go. I remember going to Nets games in the late '80s, early '90s, and I feel like you could go onto the court, rebound for the players, and so we would. And they were cheap tickets, as you can imagine. And the few times we could go to a Knick game, and that was the heart of, like, we had some really good. And this will get to why I wanted to coach. Like in that stretch, you had like Buck Showalter with the Yankees, you had Pat Riley with the Knicks, into Jeff Van Gundy. You had Parcells with the Giants and the Jets, and so I really loved playing the game. I love talking about the game. I love watching the game, and then watching teams, watching those coaches. And as always, you want to play as long as you can. If you can't, I wanted to stay in the game, and that's what ended up drawing me to coaching.
That's so interesting to think about, just in terms of a lot of young people are drawn to players, right? And to be drawn to the coaches as well during that time, especially considering those coaches. Is really interesting. Was there one of them that really did draw? Was it just as simple as basketball, Pat Riley, and Jeff Van Gundy? You looked at that, or did you like and take some of those coaching styles from like a Buck Showalter, from a Parcells, and whatever? Did you take that and think how you wanted to include that in a basketball career?
I think like everything, you learn from everybody, and you put yourself into it because you got to be who you are. So I think. Guys you look up to, coaches, players, also your parents, guys I wanted to coach also because the coaches had such a big influence on me. So guys who, John Cornet was a youth coach for me. Coach Kamizzi was a youth coach for me. And then I had Kurt Holman, who was a great coach at high school, then went to play for Coach Lee Wimberly, who was actually Popovich's assistant at Pomona Pitzer back in the day. And and then was his head of scouting with San Antonio. He had a big influence on me. And so then it became, my dad had a big influence from my parents. So, eventually you hear me say a lot, you work your tail off in life to be in a position of influence so you can give back in a positive way. And sometimes, I liked it. Obviously, I loved hoops and I loved the game. I loved to compete. I loved being part of a team. And when I couldn't play, I realized that I wanted to give back and talk about the game. And I was a captain for a couple of years, and you felt like you had some of that responsibility as well. But like, think about it when you're a kid and you go early to games and you somehow sneak behind and watch Pat Riley, and you're going like, hey, I'm obviously not as cool as Pat Riley, but he was cool.
He's a pretty cool
He's
cat.
pretty cool, yeah. What position did you play when you were playing?
Well, when I was in high school, I played two guard. And then when I got to college, this is Swarthmore for you at that time. We always had like half our team go study abroad in the middle of the year. And a lot of some of these liberal arts colleges, and I didn't know what was going on. So you start at the 2, and then when half your team goes, you're playing some 3 and some 4, and that wasn't good for anybody. But that's kind of well, that's the situation. It helps in your coaching career a little bit, but me at those positions isn't good for anybody.
So two guards. So have you and Brad Davidson have a shooting contest?
I'm not, you fight battles you can win. And Brad is a great shooter, and I'll stick to the coaching piece.
We are joined in studio with UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot. But we got to take a break, so we'll be back in about a minute. Don't go anywhere. This is Wake Up in the Den on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Great things come in threes.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and we are joined in studio with UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot. Still in our getting to know you phase of this hour, and then coming up in the second half of the hour, we will get into what I know a lot of people have texted in so far about this year's team and how it looks and all of that stuff, even though practice just got started last week. So there's a lot to figure out with how rotations are going to look like and whatnot. But let's stick to, again, the getting to know you phase with Coach EG here with us. All right, so we talked about how you gravitated towards coaching, but how exactly did your coaching career get started?
Well, it's interesting. I had a lot of back issues my middle of my college career. I had it first in high school, but when you get hurt when you're younger, you just get up and it goes away. And so I think I got arrogant. I was a worker, and I kept working when I felt something, and it probably made it worse, but I didn't know that was going to happen. So that's when I didn't feel like I could get through that. Maybe I want to stay involved in the game. And my junior year, I remember my coach telling me, he did a surprise. They did a surprise medical deal when I came in the locker room, and I failed the physical because of my back. I was kind of trying to hide it from people, and then I remember him telling me, "Hey, this is the way this is going. Maybe you want to start thinking about coaching or something like that." And I said, "Coaching? I still got a couple of years left." I'm like, "Are we giving up on my back?" And so I got it back well enough to play, and then, but it was the first time I started thinking about coaching, and right after my senior year at Swarthmore, how kids they find alums and reach out to the alums about their, I was a double major in economics and sociology, anthropology, but I didn't want to do any of that at all, not for 1 second. I wanted to pick something I wanted to do, enjoy life, and so I wanted to coach, and there's no alums I could reach out to. Actually, me and my classmate Josh Leffler, who's now the head coach at Division I Loyola Maryland, he just got named this offseason, are basically the two guys who are ever really gotten to coaching. So you're on your own. I sent an email and letter to every coach in the country, and I started hearing back from a couple of them. I remember Lawrence Frank, who was the third assistant of the Nets at the time, who's now a good friend and obviously the president of basketball operations for the Clippers. He reached out, let me come to his office. We talked a little bit. Phil Martelli, because he was 20 minutes from, he was at St. Joe's and I was at Swarthmore, and he had me come over to his office. And then I started working camps. That's what they recommended. I worked Kentucky, Virginia, St. Joe's, Villanova, and NC State. And then in August, my college coach, who was really close with, he sends me an email basically, like a friend of mine who's the young up-and-coming, I still have it, up-and-coming head coach at St. Mary's named Randy Bennett. He was in his second year, might have something. And then, people thought, I say this story all the time because we talked over the phone, and he hired me over the phone. And I'm going crazy in the living room, and my parents are, they're sitting there going, "This kid's not coaching. I hope he's not coaching." like I hope he goes and does this investment banking thing, which I wouldn't have wanted to do. And then I go, "Hey, I just got hired at St. Mary's," and they're like, "Okay, for what?" $0. And so obviously I was a volunteer. I know we talked about a volunteer for 3 years. And that's how I started my coaching career. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I tell people all the time, work your way up, make sure you make every decision based on being happy, do what you love, where you love, with people you love, and where you're getting better. And I happen to be around, Randy Bennett, who's now 22 years. This is my 22nd year. He's still the head coach at St. Mary's, one of the best in the country. Our associate head coach was Kyle Smith, who's the head coach at Stanford. Todd Golden was a freshman walk-on for us. He's the head coach at Florida. But it's funny. If you make decisions about being around the right people, all that matters is getting better, and I was very fortunate for that.
Yeah, and good credit to you. And I can only imagine, though, like you said, your parents are like, wait, what? For how much? No, what? Why are we? What is this volunteer stuff that you're doing?
I put him in a tough spot because I'm a parent too. Like, you got to, the reluctant acceptance of like, okay, yeah, that's great, congrats, and then, not that they didn't want me to do it, but the deal, like, how much you make and how you living, and it was a struggle for a long time. And I think about, like, this is my 22nd year coaching. I think like maybe between years 10 and 15, they started to, okay, this is all right now.
So what brought you to Hawaii the first time?
So similar deal. And everything's about who you know. And so after my third year at St. Mary's, my college, Randy Bennett was really close with Riley Wallace. And I was very thankful timing because Coach Wallace was going into his last year. He called me over the phone through that connection and one other. And basically, we went through things, and he hired me, and same thing. It was like, all right, you're in. And, just like with Randy Mill, I'm like, so am I hired? What does that mean? He's like, yeah, what do you think that means? I'll pick you up at this. So Bennett actually, in 2003, picked me up at the airport, got lost on the way back. And Coach Wallace picked me up at the airport in 2006, and when he hired me. And the very next day I was on the golf course. They were doing the Riley Wallace golf tournament. He stuck me on a hole for 6 hours. I didn't even know what I was doing yet, and obviously I got incredibly burnt as anyone could get. And here I am. So that's how I got to Hawaii. I had only been there maybe one time when I was a kid, and it's changed my life.
I was going to ask that. Like, did you come to Hawaii at all before you got picked up by Coach Riley and then got stuck on a golf hole?
No.
That's awesome. I actually did not know that story.
Well, I remember these vividly. Like my first day, Bennett picked me up at the San Fran airport, definitely got lost on the way back. And then the next day was my birthday. I turned 22. And then here we go, 3 years later, Coach Wallace hires me, picks me up at the airport, and the next day I'm on the golf course. Burnt. Like, really, really burnt. And I think he, in typical Coach Wallace fashion, like, you got to learn the hard way. Like someone, I didn't even know what I was doing. And, but anyway, it's good to look back on. And, I always say the profession takes you places, and I've been very fortunate. Not everybody's been as fortunate. I may have been, and look, I'm 5,000 miles away from where I grew up, but it's been really good to me, and I've been around the right people, and I'm very fortunate for it.
Yeah, and good thing you did end up in Hawaii, right? Because that's how you met Barbie.
Yeah, well, that's how I met a lot of people, right? I was, and I always tell people too, because I was, 24 when I first came here, and then turned 25. I think it was a couple weeks later. Didn't know anybody, and yet, I just like my daughter who's going through it. When I came here as the head coach, and she was 4. I have a Hawaiian mom and a Hawaiian dad, as you know, and aunties and uncles and the family, people who looked after me. I was single. I didn't know what I was doing. I was alone, and just like my family feels and our players feel, people looked after me, and they become family for life. And that's why when I left, people forget I went to St. Mary's, Hawaii, back to St. Mary's. And every summer I came back here, and everybody at St. Mary's knew that. Randy, where are you going for the vacation we get? Hawaii. And so I'd catch up with all the family and friends, and now see them every day is pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's incredible. All right, talk us through what happened. Now the job opens up here in Hawaii, and was it an easy decision to pull that trigger and try to get this head coaching gig, or talk us through how all of that went when you were looking at being the head coach here?
Yeah, it's interesting that when I came back to St. Mary's, I kind of worked my way up and, became the associate head coach, and I had a really good thing at St. Mary's. And obviously I've only been at 2 schools in 22 years, and people, and I'm a different type of coach. People scatter around. They're looking for their next thing. And I'm fortunate because I played for Coach Rimley, who was there for 20 plus years, and then worked for Randy Bennett, who's still there. He's been there 20 plus years, came to Riley Wallace, and obviously Bob Nash, both those guys 20 plus years. And I'm probably old school in this regard. Like, guys want to do something and get out of there, and we never did, that group. We want to build something, and we like seeing tradition, and like you heard me say, I like the 8th annual tip-off and the 8th annual Coaches vs. Cancer, and we honored the 100th season of Hawaii basketball, and I always tell people all the time what a thrill for me to work for Coach Walls and Coach Nash and meet Red Rocha before he passed, and got really close with Larry Little, and so I'm really Hawaii, everything's in my heart. So, what was the question again? I'm rambling.
No, I love it because this is the side
hanging on every word
this
over
is
here.
the side that I know a lot of fans and listeners never really get to hear, because we usually only talk about basketball, which again people will get to a little later in
important.
this hour.
I
But
get it.
it's just sharing how, like you said, you like to go somewhere where you feel like that's where you're going to be in tradition. But what allowed you, or what led into the decision when you were at St. Mary's to come back and be
and by the way,
head
as you
coach
can
here?
tell, I'm not embarrassed to say, what was the question again? No,
That's
I
fine.
forgot it alone. And as you get older, you don't care. So I was in a good place. At the time, and it's the same when you're, for some of those guys, that group, when they're there, they're invested there. They don't see anything else. You kind of do your best job, make the job you're at the best job, invest in it, put your heart into it, and the rest will take care of itself. So, in my mind at St. Mary's, I was in my 12th year. I was 33, and we were doing really well, and I was really invested there. So I always say, like, when people say their dream job, it's funny to me when people say, like, 100 dream jobs. I'm like, isn't a dream one? Like, there's one. Like, I always wanted to be the head. Obviously, you start this because you want to one day run your own program, and that's what it's all about. And some people say, I just want to be a head coach. I always said I want to be a good head coach. So there's no rush. I want to keep getting better and then put myself in position. Whatever happens. But I only wanted to coach where I played or worked, because I had, my heart was there. So Swarthmore, St. Mary's, Hawaii. I just didn't understand the other stuff yet because my heart was there. But then, from afar, you're locked in your season. Obviously, things were going on here, but it wasn't really still in my mind. It was a unique time at UH. There was NCAA investigations going on. There was coaching changes. There was a lot of stuff. And you're following it from afar as much as I follow Swarthmore, who's now been to Final Fours, by the way. And St. Mary's now I follow while I'm here, too, in my high school. But you're so locked in to where you're at. And then all of a sudden, I had some people reach out about my interest, but I remember going like, well, let's do a great job here, and whatever happens, happens. And then obviously things started to heat up a little bit more during the offseason once the season's ended into the Final Four, and then it became clear that this could happen. And so all I remember, though, is, at the Final Four, interviewing at the Final Four, coming back to St. Mary's, and then being in the living room area and getting a call. And I think it's like when I do you laugh, because when I do an interview or I get a call, I'm like, I'm prepared, to be honest. I'm prepared my whole life. I don't sit there when you hear me speak to people or do a clinic or do an interview. This is me. You like it or you don't. I'm not going to sit there and do these fancy deals. Like, I'm going to speak from my heart, because that's how I want with our players, with people in the community. And so I think when I did the interview, I walked outside and said, they like me or they don't. That's it. I did my part. And so when I got the call, I think it was like, all right, we gave it a shot. And then I got hired, and then I called. Obviously, Barbie was there, and I called Randy Bennett, and he's like, "I'm coming over right now." And we went to an area. We were both in Moraga at the time. We went to an area. I think we had some frozen yogurt, and then he said, "Hey, why don't you come by?" Because I got a call. It was like in the mid-afternoon, and said, "Hey," I'm like, "Great, let me enjoy this for a second." They're like, "Okay, so tomorrow you have a red eye or an early morning flight, and then the press conference is at 9." And I said, as you can imagine, I got to meet with the players, because I don't want their first view of me being at a press conference. I got to meet with them before the press conference. But I'm like, not much time. So, but I think I had a flight that night, and then got in morning. And so when I got to Bennett said, "Hey, why don't you come by for a second to the locker room?" And I went to the locker room, and our St. Mary's team was all there going crazy. And that was emotional, because, I was excited about what was ahead, but I was obviously, you get really attached to your group. So I do remember those.
Were you more excited about getting that job or getting your volunteer job for St. Mary's? It sounds kind of equal. That's why right now on the excitement level.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Well, the foot in the door was difficult for anybody, as you know. And so it was a moment. I always tell people sometimes the moments you don't forget when you get the call, where I was at, and then when I came here, like the other moment was like finding out all that was going on with the program. I knew about the NCAA investigation. I didn't know about some of the other issues, but then it became the whole deal was always number one, have a plan. Number two, be flexible, and kept reminding myself of that. And the you've heard me say with opportunities, you could say challenges, I could say opportunities. So we looked at it as an opportunity, but all those moments were really exciting. I remember when Bennett hired me over the phone, when Coach Wallace hired me over the phone, when Bennett hired me back, and when David Matlin called me, and so those I'll never forget.
It's just a really fun story to listen to, because I think there are a lot of young coaches who probably can listen to that and take a lot from it, where it really does emphasize how important relationships are in this industry, in this business, not just with other coaches, but it's interesting to hear how excited your players were for you at St. Mary's, understanding that they were losing you on the bench, sure, but they were still seeing somebody grow and whatnot. It's been cool to see that kind of continue here, because I think you've brought that in the culture here. You see it every day, even, and I know we're going to get into basketball and this team and whatnot, but even with this team with so many new faces, to see people celebrate each other, especially in today's day and age in college athletics, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, and I want to echo the sentiment about culture, and the college landscape right now, how you see a lot of transfers, especially in the world of men's basketball and all that stuff. And you've had a lot of your players stay, which has been really, and to finish out their time here in Hawaii, and we will likely see that continue. So that definitely is a testament to everything that you've built over there. As we are joined by UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, we will start to transition into our basketball conversation and look ahead at what's going on this season. So if you guys want, you can text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. So we'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Dialing back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Oh, I thought he wanted to open up
I
the
did.
show
I
from
didn't
the
know
break.
if the song went down and then you spoke. I just wanted to say, like, when you hear that, you hear the Hawaii 5-0 for life, it gives you chills.
And shout out to the UH band right there. That is actually, yes, them playing. I've recorded it at like one of the games and had to have it as our rejoin song every once in a while, especially when we have UH guests in studio, as we were joined by UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot. We'll get into this season and the players in just a little bit. But before we do, though, I just wanted to ask you about something that is very important to you and a cause that you are very passionate about, and that is Coaches versus Cancer, something that you've been very active in promoting and doing good things for it. And I just want to kind of ask you, like, where that, like, how you got into it. Was it something that you always wanted to do, and then getting into being a huge advocate for that program and what it means to you?
Well, it goes back to what I said earlier about you work your tail off to be in a position of influence to affect lives in a positive way. And so I want to make sure I'm doing my part. We're doing our part. Our kids know that because our kids, as you know, our student athletes, our guys are incredible in the community. And so the more you can reinforce that. But, my 22 years of coaching, we've always been involved with it from a Coaches with Cancer week where at one point it was the suits and sneakers. And then when I became head coach, I say the story all the time. Lon Kruger, I knew a little bit, and he was kind of the lead and the chair of Coaches with Cancer, and we were about to play him in the Diamond Head, and I knew one of his assistants really well. And I said, hey, I want to get more involved in this than just the suits and sneakers. And I could tell how important it was because right when I said that, minute later, I get a call from Lon Kruger. And then maybe the next week, the head of American Cancer Society comes over to UH, and then we all of a sudden we find out. So it's like, what can you do in Hawaii? And so everybody has these events, or the few people who do can have these events, and we don't always have coaches around. We're in Hawaii. So year one, we did the first year of the event at Murphy's with Roy Williams because we were playing them. This is my second season, year one of the event. Because we were playing North Carolina. And so he was great. And so it shows you, man, these guys are really busy, but they'll stop everything for this fight against cancer. And then after year one of ours, we said, what's the best way we can get all these coaches? And it became the Diamond Head. So each year we've gotten pretty much 100% of the coaches there. So you get 7 new coaches, and we do it at Outrigger Reef. Like I said, this year we're doing our 8th annual Coaches vs. Cancer event, and it's been incredible. It's been successful. We're raising money. We're raising awareness. It's talked about throughout the Diamond Head. So I feel like we're doing our part. We're going to continue to chip away to make it bigger and better. All of us have been touched one way or another, directly or indirectly, by this dreadful disease. Obviously, you've coached long enough. You'll have guys you've coached with, guys you've worked for, guys on your team. And we have one of the 31 or 32 Hope Lodges in the country where the money stays right here. And we will be taking our team this fall to the Hope Lodge once again and visit it and feed the people who are there.
I'm so happy that you said that because I was going to say it if you didn't, because I honestly did not know until maybe last year's event or 2 years ago that the money did stay here. Because as someone who's passionate about all the issues we have going on here, I like to know where I donate, like whether it's be the blood bank or the food bank. That's why those are the two that I'm passionate about, because I know it's not going anywhere else. It's staying here in Hawaii. So I think that's important for people to know that for Coaches versus Cancer, what you do, the money does stay here and goes to the Hope Lodge here.
Yeah, and it's an incredible collaboration. Like the first year we were starting something, you get no sponsors, one sponsor, 5, 10, and it's grown. And so anybody who's listening right now, reach out to us. We're looking for more sponsors. We're trying to continue to raise more awareness. It's like anything. It's gotten really successful, but we want more money, more awareness. Let's keep fighting. Eventually we will crush cancer, and there have been a lot of inroads made. There have been improvements, but we're still fighting it.
All right.
I mean, I know it's a while back. What did it mean to be named the champion of the year? Just is part of the whole thing. I know that you're not going to want to talk about yourself, but in something that is so important, something that you're so passionate about, like how cool was it to just be in that moment and be like, all right, maybe I really am like making that difference. It's being seen elsewhere.
Well, I think I was the person, and I think you could put a Hawaii on my whole body when I was like, that is who was the recipient, really. Because I know it's, because I can't tell. We have a Coaches vs. Cancer committee. We've had these sponsors step up. The Reef has been fantastic. The food's been incredible. Auction items and you guys helping us promote that. So when I got the call, I'm sure Alana and I have gotten really close, Lon Kruger, and I got like missed calls from him because we were in March. It was and usually when I'm in Vegas, he will come by because he lives in Vegas, and he'll come say hello, which is incredible from him. He's obviously a Hall of Fame coach, but he's more than that, and so a great mentor as well. And so when I had missed his call because we were in practice, I'm like, oh, he's probably maybe coming to practice or something, and then I got a couple other calls. Hey, you got to get back to Lon Kruger, and then he set me up. And when he said, hey, by the way, we're going to do this, and then of course I said something like, you might want to rethink that, and then he said, nah, we're doing this, and so that was it was cool because of what it embodied.
All right, let's switch it over now. I know everyone's been like waiting at the edge of their seats to start talking about this year's team and some of the current players. Before we get into some of your questions, though, I do want to at least ask you, in case people missed the end of the first hour and we broke the news that Cody Williams has earned himself a scholarship with the team. So just talk a little bit about Cody and his contribution so far, because from what we've seen and by potentially this year too, he's not exactly someone that's always in the starting five or that main rotation, but players can earn themselves scholarships just by what they contribute elsewhere. So just talk a little bit about the player that Cody is and how he earned his scholarship.
Well, there's nothing like recognition, but it's very emotional when it's deserved. Like, we no handouts. It's a great moment, but he deserved it, and I think it was the first time we've seen him that emotional, and probably because it was earned, the work he put in, and you want to reward that. And I think I talked about it yesterday with the group, like the work he's put in, where we've asked him to do. He's checked the boxes, and obviously he's been impactful on the floor. I remember first year we had everybody in foul trouble in the Diamond Head championship game, and he gave us a lift. And then last year, we had a tough stretch. We were 2-6, and we had Moritz, Hurd, Javon Hurd, and he was a big spark to get us, to go down a 10-3 stretch. So this is, and I'm not saying this just to say I never do it, but 22 years of coaching, this is and I said this yesterday, but this is the best athlete. I mean, we do all the NBA combine tests, and he's putting out numbers. So that's one point, like athlete, strong, physical. Disservice if that's all we talk about with Cody. So defensively, he's gotten more consistent and used those attributes. We've challenged him to be a better shooter. He's become one of our better shooters in the summer, fall, into the first couple of days of practice. So, and he gives you the toughness. He knows what our culture is about, and you guys have seen this. The starters have to keep earning it. And I've started walk-ons over scholarship guys. Like, this is an earned program. This is and the reason he's played is because he's earned, and the reason he's getting the scholarship is because he's earned it. And more than anything, it's a statement to the group, because we want to be about growth mindset. And so, yes, he earned this because of his performance, but he also is sending a message that you can improve if you have the right mindset. And so hopefully that continues to spread throughout our program.
And that's all the young players listening right now too. And the parents listening, it's huge. It's across all of sports, right? Especially, like I said, now what we see how college is changing so drastically, there are still programs and coaches that are very much still about the purity of growing, and not just, hey, you're just going to get whatever you want, but because that's what is going to happen. So again, shout out and congratulations to Cody Williams. If you guys do want to see the video, you can go to the Hawaii men's basketball social media. All right, before we go to our next break, I want to get into... We
surprised them pretty good, I
know.
think.
So, like, the video came out when we're still on air, and obviously we had to get you into the studio, so I have not been able to watch it yet, but I'm so excited because by all accounts, it's supposed to be like an awesome video, and you said he got really emotional. So I'm excited. Once this show's done, then I'm gonna definitely go watch it.
Ryan Rapp, I think, was one of them who may have known, and so we're like sitting there going, Ryan Rapp cannot keep a secret, and you could probably see it because he's really close to Coach, as they all are, and you could see on his face, like, Ryan, keep it calm, like, let us get through this. Yeah, but it's not just let me say this. That to see, there's nothing in coaching like seeing a student athlete grow or a team come together, or when you can sit on the chair and watch your student athletes smile and be happy. And then, so the moment to me yesterday wasn't just seeing the genuine emotion and tears from Cody. It was the similar emotion from his teammates and the staff. And that's pretty cool.
I love it.
So cool.
This is so cool.
I love
I'm excited.
Stuff like that.
I'm excited to watch it. All right. I lied. We're going to take our break a little early just because I want to end the show with just all about this year and all of the things we need to talk about with the new players that are coming in. So we're going to take a break. So don't go anywhere. We'll wrap it up with the program itself and what to look forward to this year as we're joined by UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Gather around, ladies.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and joined in studio with UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot. All right, as we said before, want to make sure I get into your questions because we had texts come in like even before our first hour started at 8 a.m. So I want to make sure I ask their questions as we get into talking about this year's program. So first up, 2 questions. Who do you project as starting point guard? Who do you project as the go-to guy for scoring / the playmaker? I know it was practice just started, and I did prep our listeners that there's not much that you can share, but as best you can, just answer this question or a couple questions for our listeners.
I will always answer as best I can, and I will not get in trouble. So some of that is really tough to say. You know, obviously we're right now in a year where you have a lot of new faces, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, it's fun to see. You know, like I said, we're finally getting more access to the guys. 4 hours of basketball or whatever it is a week for the summer and the fall is not a lot. And now you're close to 20 hours a week of strength conditioning basketball. And that's significantly different, especially with the new group. So I think we're looking at a lot of different combinations. You can see, you know, obviously Marcus Green as a scorer is a guy who scored 15 or 16 a game. He has it in him. I do think we've done a good job over the years, and you've seen it with Bernardo and Javon and Noel and Eddie Stansbury and those guys. Guys make a jump. So a lot of people from an outside, if you haven't seen them, you make predictions of what you have coming in, what you have coming back, rather than the improvement of what you have coming in when you get access to them and the improvement of what you have coming back. So I do think, you know, Tom Beatty, Akira, those are 2 guys who got significant minutes in this day and age as freshmen that will help them for this year. And I would expect their scoring to go up. But like I said, from the returners, you do have Marcus Green, who's been a 15, 16 a game guy. You do have Tanner Christensen, who's been a double-figure scorer already at the Division I level. I think Gitas stands out because he is a natural scorer because he's very aggressive. He attacks. You know, sometimes initially you see the potential of scoring from each guy just by how aggressive they are. And, you know, he's a guy, you know, I talk about how we've had success with, you know, the Kamaka Hepa, Jack Purchase, you know, Justin McCoy, Noah Allen. These are high-profile NCAA tournament, you know, Sweet 16 type programs that they're just playing behind pros. And Gitas was a very good program at Xavier, and he did play. He started a lot of games. He's had a 18, 20-point game. So, you know, it was not as much getting him comfortable to play more minutes because he's kind of done that. Now it's playing more of a leading role. So, you know, the point guard position, I think we got 4 guys we're throwing in there in and out. And obviously I've talked about Marcus. Tom Beatty has played point guard, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him in there as well. Aaron Clater is a very good freshman who has a really good sense of the position. He sees the floor well. He is very competitive. He's had a good start to his freshman campaign, and he's got a very bright future. And obviously Cody Williams. I mean, Cody Williams is at the point of attack. You know, they're not always going to be the same type of point guard, but they do need to run their team, give the group a sense of confidence. Cody, I think, is going to be one, if not the best disruptors in our league defensively. But he's really improved. Obviously, he's very fast getting the paint, but he's improved his decision-making and shooting. So there's been great competition there.
Yeah, and again, practice just started. So for everyone, we'll get a better idea as we go through this next month. Okay?
I think I have to have the starting 5 right now.
Yeah, right now.
But I love the question, though. It's fair.
Of course. And if you guys can text us at 808-888-KG1. That's 808-888-5481. All right, another texter texting in, Eran, what modifications are you working on so that UH men's basketball makes that long sought-after breakthrough to win the Big West? I am a fan of your program.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know we've talked about, 7 straight winning seasons, back-to-back 20-win seasons. We want more. We want the breakthrough. And sometimes there's been some things we're talking about with a bunch of alums the other day, like you need a break here and there in a one-bid league. If Javon McClanahan makes that shot, which we fought to get that, you could go into the championship and anything can happen there. And I always say the harder thing is it's harder to get in the tournament than to advance in the tournament. But I even think the 1 year we didn't have the season with COVID, that's Eddie Stansbury, Samuta was out, Bernardo was out, and then we had them all for that last stretch, and then we didn't get to play. I do remember we talk about the one group with when we lost We lost Juan Munoz. We lost Samuta, and then we lost Bernardo because of the wrist. And that group won 13 of 18 going into the final stretch. But Noel had the fracture near his eye. So, you need a couple breaks there too. But I do think we'll always have a blueprint to answer this question of how we run our program, the style of play, offensively, defensively, which will be based on team, and we'll wrinkle it for the strengths of our personnel. So I think one of the big things, if we can keep that going this year and take care of the ball better, which I think this group has the chance to do. If we can do that, you go from good to great. And obviously there's already, and you guys won't see yet, but we will wrinkle our deal towards our personnel. We have it's a different group, so we'll adjust that.
Kind of to combine the two questions that our texters have sent in, it seemed like during the offseason you guys focused on getting a bit bigger, stronger, longer, taller, at the guard position especially. Was that something that you guys were looking to do, or did that just kind of happen how it ended up? Or was that something that you wanted to do going into this Big West season, especially after the graduation of guys like Javon, Noel, so on and so forth?
No, I think that was a target without losing who we are. Like I tell people all the time, it's a different landscape in college athletics, and people say, how are you going to attack it? And you've heard me say, we're going to attack it and navigate it the best way we can and stay consistent with who we are, how we want to run our culture, consistent with the Hawaii values, be based on team. So sometimes you might have this guy that you want, but I joke all the time, not joke, but like you'll hear in recruiting, hey, this guy doesn't want to be in the gym. This guy's got off the court issues. You got to walk this guy to class, and we'll just say no, we won't. He won't be part of this deal because those guys won't get better. And so, I feel like we're bigger. You can sense we're bigger, but we're not gonna pass up on a good guard because he's smaller. We'll just wrinkle him for it. Does that make sense? Like I use the example my first year where we used to always have this back to the basket 5 I'm used to, and then we had Janks, and then I'm like, okay, Janks is going to be a hybrid 5. We're going to use him differently. And the next year was Noah Allen. Well, typically we've had 3 men who are 3-and-D guys, but Noah could play in ball screens and he can post, and so we're going to adjust that. And right now we've been experimenting a lot because I think Jerome's good, Jerome Palm's good, Tanner Christensen's good, Harry really just made a jump, and Gitas is impactful, and here comes Akira Jacobs. And so what do? The first 3 practices you're probably watching goes, wait a minute, Akira's the 3? And we did that a couple years ago. If you remember, we were like, at one point in the meeting, we're like, well, who's it going to be, Jerome or Kamaka at the 4? And we just said, why not both?
Both will.
Play big. And so move Junior Madut to the point. And so there's a lot of that experimenting going on right now, but you can feel the size is a little different. I mean, obviously, we got Tanner down to 260, which is great. But he's the guy running a 5:34 mile.
Right.
These guys are working hard, and they're a great group to work with. We're obviously trying to learn about each other. There's still ups and downs when you have so many new faces, but we're enjoying working with them.
Yeah, actually, I want to ask you specifically about Akira Jacobs. Obviously had a big summer. So did you notice not only a change in his basketball skill, but also maybe just does he have a little bit more confidence now heading into practice this season?
Well, we've said that. When you throw a Tom Beatty and an Akira Jacobs in the fire as freshmen, and how does that not help you for the next year? And obviously, Akira, I've only coached, and not many do. You don't get many college players playing the Olympics. I was fortunate to coach Del Vadova when he played in the Olympics, and when he came back, now he was older. Akira did it after his freshman year, and so it's funny too. Can you watch him? Like he sends a clip or something about him shooting a 3 over Jokic. I sent him. We're saying, what about the one he hit over you? No. Just think about the guy. Every day, every practice he's going against pros. Every day he's guarding. Every game over there he's guarding a pro, and so he came in at 203 or something. He's 221 right now, and he's now we're throwing him at the 3, so you can feel like he's ready for a jump, and his composure, his mentality has always been really good. Sometimes guys just need some reps, and he's had some under his belt.
All right, we have about 4 minutes left, so I want to make sure I pretty much give you the floor entirely. I want you to not only promote the upcoming tip-off, of course, but also just anything else you want to say to all of the UH men's basketball fans listening as well.
I always, as you know, I start everything, end with everything, every meeting with being thankful. So I'm very thankful for everybody listening, everybody who's not, for their support. This is year 105 and we did our history of the program lesson already for our team. This is year 105. And, we've been through some ups and downs, whether it was, dealing with the clouds, our first year, dealing with the clarity of the clouds. The following years, here comes COVID, here comes injuries, and here comes this landscape of college athletics, NIL, all this stuff, and roster sizes. And we just got to stay together, and not just for our program, all of UH, the athletic department. It is like, there's strength in numbers, and you need to have alignment. And if we can weather some of the ups and downs, the best is yet to come. And, I do know, we just finished our third practice, and obviously November 8th is the start of our schedule with the Rainbow Classic. We have some cool initiatives in the offseason with the exhibition games, one in Hilo and another one to be announced shortly. October 17th, there's our 8th annual tip-off. So check our site. I know you guys will be providing information. I think it's one of the best tip-off events, if not the best in the country. It'll be sold out, 500 people, interactive. I think we're announcing so that was October 17th. On October 19th, we're bringing back a kind of a version of the old Midnight Ohana with a Rainbow Madness, which information to come. And season tickets on sale. So pack the place. We're bringing back the Rainbow. We host the Diamond Head, Corpus Christi, Weber State are 20-win programs. We always want a Mountain West team and a WCC team in the Rainbow if you can get it. We have that with Pacific and San Jose State. And obviously Friday night, top 10 North Carolina comes into town. So let's pack the house. I don't think our guys appreciate anything more than stepping in there and feeling the energy of the crowd. And we have so many longtime supporters and new ones hopefully on the way. And I just know I appreciate the heck out of everybody who's supporting us and all of UH and athletics, especially in this time. I think this is where we can make our move if we can really step up our, guys, it's a unique time. And let's show a lot of love for everything Hawaii.
Right, there you go, October 17th. I'm so curious about this exhibition game because Coach Beeman also dropped that little, there's another exhibition game. So I'm like, wait a minute. And now you mentioned the exhibition game that's us on top of the one against UH Hilo coming up at the end of October. I'm like, what is this exhibition
Just ever so
game?
interesting hints, the little bread crumbs being dropped.
I love how you guys are trying to tempt me to divulge the information, but I won't.
Like, dang it.
He's an old pro, he's a veteran.
I know. All right, guys, about just a little bit over a minute left. So we do definitely want to thank you for taking your entire hour this morning. And I'm glad we could grab you right before the craziness does start, even more so, because as you mentioned, all of the events coming up, again, men's basketball tip-off event, October 17th. And then what is it going to be called again? Midnight?
I think it's going to be called Rainbow Madness.
Rainbow Madness coming up on the 19th of October, but be sure to stick around for more details with that. And October is tomorrow already, everybody. Like, this is crazy. And here we are, basketball season. Yes.
I can't believe how many days just flew by because I was like, man, basketball's so far away. And then all of a sudden it was boom, Rainbow Wahine practice, boom, Rainbow Warrior practice. I couldn't be happier.
Yep. All right. Well, we just about have to bow out of here. So again, Coach Ganot, thank you for joining us. You can wave to our YouTube fans right there on this camera. Bye.
Where?
Right here.
Oh, I didn't even know there was a camera there the whole time.
It's like in the background right there. That means it's good. It's been hiding. But for now, we got to go. So for Coach Eran Ganot, Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ule Agbayani. Mahal for listening and watching. Bye.
Home of the Los Angeles Clippers, KGUAM.